Okay, hi everyone. One second. Okay, so my name is Helen Wang, and today I'll be going a little bit more in depth in the concepts of time signature, key signatures, major scales, minor scales, and scale mode. So before we go into those, just a small review of the 7-letter name cycle. So C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And notes that are eighth apart from each other, they would be called an octave, and they sound similar, just one is higher, one is lower. And it's a concept called octave equivalence. So here you can see the keyboard, and here's middle C. And middle C, for those that are learning the keyboard, is a point of reference, especially for beginners, because it's the C that's in the middle of the keyboard. And if you look down here, this is a larger version of the keyboard, and middle C is also known as C4. So the numbers behind them just show which octave you are in. And the numbers, they start at C, not at A. So this A would be A2, not A3. And this A would be A3 instead of A4. Another thing is harmonic equivalences. So you know that a half step above C is C sharp or D flat. And that would be called a harmonic equivalence. They're not exactly equal, they just have the same sound. And that's important because later when you go deep into possibly intervals and chords, you need to know that it's a harmonic equivalence and they're not really exactly equal, they just sound the same. Okay, so into dynamics. Dynamics, they mark the variations in loudness between certain notes or phrases within a music composition. And it might not exactly be just like, because every performer has a different interpretation of dynamics. It's just in relation to all of the other notes. So pianissimo, for example, which is the softest, would be very quiet in relation to mezzo forte or forte, and fortissimo would be really, really loud in relation to piano and pianissimo. Because you don't really want it to be too quiet, because then the audience can't really hear it. It's just in relation. And crescendo is gradually growing louder, and usually you'll see it between a piano and a forte, and diminuendo is gradually diminishing in sound. And then another thing is sforzando, which is kind of like an accent. It's just a sudden loudness on a note or a beat. So another thing is tempo markings, which let you know the speed and the tempo at which a composer of the piece wants it to be performed at. And you could possibly write these into your own composition when you are doing that. They're usually, most often, when you play a piece, you'll see them in Italian. There are a couple other languages, but Italian is most often. So these are not all of the tempo markings that you might see, but they're the most common ones you'll see. In slower tempo markings, you have grave, largo, larghetto, and adagio. In medium tempo markings, you have andantino, andante, moderato, and allegretto. In faster tempo markings, you have allegro, vivace, presto, and prestissimo. So what you would call increasing in tempo gradually is accelerando, and decreasing in tempo gradually is called ritardando. And sometimes you'll see a poco before those, and that would just mean a little bit. So just a little bit faster or a little bit slower. And then flexibility within tempo is called rubato, and usually a composer adds that into a piece so a performer can have their own interpretation. So it's more of the large expression pieces. So down here you'll see the common beats per measure that you would practice at when you see these tempo markings. And you would enter that into like a metronome like this one possibly when you're practicing. So here's just a small practice on the definitions, and you should be able to match it. I get that I didn't really exactly put the actual definitions down here, but I think it should reveal itself pretty well. So I'll give you guys like 1 or 2 minutes to do that. Okay, so are you guys done? Um, so if you're not done, okay. So I'll go on to the answers. So here, graphing, tempo marking section. Rubato means flexibility within tempo. Accelerando is gradually increasing in tempo. Retardando is gradually decreasing in tempo. Moderato is walking pace, or also known as at a moderate tempo. And presto is at a rapid tempo. So I know that you guys were taught about the treble and the bass clefs last time. So just to tell you guys about a couple of the other clefs, but the most common ones other than treble and bass are alto and tenor. And also, if you notice all of these names, it kind of follows SATB, which is soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, which is the choral styles. And alto clef is mainly used for the alto trombone and the viola, usually the lower part of the viola. And tenor clef is used mostly for the upper ranges of bass instruments like the bassoon, the cello, the double bass, also known as the bass. So if you notice, all of these, they have the same shape. And usually when I first learned this, I used this point as a reference because this is where middle C is. So in the alto clef, middle C is right here. And in the tenor clef, middle C is right here. So the middle C in the alto clef is at the B in where treble clef is usually at. But what you need to like be careful about is that this is C4. This is middle C instead of C5. Okay, so here's a small practice on the alto and tenor class. And if you look here, it asks you to fill out the clefs and also the note names. So here, if you take what I did before on the last slide, this is middle C. So if you count down one, and then which would be B, count down another, which would be A. So this one would be A. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to do this one, and then we can go on from there. Okay, so are we all finished? Okay, I'll just reveal the answers then. So this one is alto clef, and this note is F sharp. So again, if you just take this as C, F would be one lower, right? So this would be F sharp. This one is E. This one is E flat. This note is C. And then on this side is tenor clef. This would be B flat. This is D. This is F sharp. This is G. And then this is C. Okay. So next we're gonna talk about meter signatures. So they're also known as time signatures. This would be an example of a time signature. And if you notice, the top number is the number of beats per measure. So here, a half note is 2 beats, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So each measure is 3 beats. And the bottom number is the type of note that gets the beat. So in this case, it's the quarter note that gets the beat. So it's a 4. And if you notice, this is only one quarter note. And what you would call that is a pickup note or an anacrusis. And it's just a note before the first downbeat. And what usually you would do, I didn't put on the entire song onto this, but on the last, since you have one note here, on the last measure of this piece, there will only be 2 notes in order to complete this. And then ways to classify meters is that they're either simple or they're compound, and under simple and compound, there's duple, triple, and quadruple. So you would call a meter, for example, simple triple meter or compound duple meter. And meters that subdivide into 2 equal two equal parts. Meters that have like beats that subdivide into two equal parts are simple, and meters that have beats that divide into three equal parts are compound. And I'll talk about what that means on the next slide. So I have the common meters here. And if you notice something, in the simple meter section, 2, 3, and 4 on the top correspond to duple, triple, and quadruple. So it will always be like that. And then the beat unit here is a quarter note, which can subdivide into 2/8 notes. The beat unit here is a half note, which can subdivide into 2 quarter notes. The beat unit here is an 1/8 note, which can subdivide into 2 16th notes. And the beat unit here is a 16th note, which can subdivide into 2 32nd notes. And then the two most common meters in the simple meters is 4/4 and 2/2. So sometimes you will see 4/4 as a C, and it's called common time. And sometimes you'll see 2/2 as a C with a slash through it, so like a cut C, and that's called alla breve or cut time. And here in the compound meters, you'll notice that if you divide the top number by 3, it will give you whether it's duple, triple, or quadruple. So for example, you divide 6 by 3, you get 2, so that's duple. You divide 9 by 3, and that's 3, so it's triple. And you divide 12 by 3, and that's 4, so it's quadruple. And if you look at the beat units here as well, the beat unit here is the dotted quarter note, which can subdivide into 3/8 notes. The beat unit here is dotted half note, which is 3 beats, so it can be subdivided, which is 3 quarter notes. And then here's a dotted half note, which can be subdivided into 3 16th notes. Okay, so going on to key signatures. So if you notice the order of everything, it's always the clef, the key signature, and then the time signature. So the key signature is here. In this case, there are 3 sharps. So here it's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And there's always a key signature, it always either has flats or sharps. So it won't have like F sharp and then B flat. It wouldn't be like that. It only has flats or sharps. And there's also a certain order that it goes by. So for example, you can't have a D flat after a B flat without the E flat and the A flat. It must go by a certain order. So the order of flats is B, E, A, B, G, C, F. So the trick for remembering that is B, greatest common factor. And the order of sharps is S, C, G, D, A, E, B. And if you notice, it's the opposite of the order of flats. So this would meet that because it's F, C, G. So it's the first 3. And accidentals are something that you might see within a piece. And they are either just a sudden flat or sharp or a natural. A natural is something that just eliminates the sharp. And it occurs in the music and it overrides the key signature for a single measure. So if you have a natural and then there's on a B, which is not in here, but oh, here we go. Okay, so you have a B flat here, and they didn't write the flat sign here, but since they're in the same measure, this note is also a flat. So it overrides for a single measure. Okay. So going on from key signatures, we have major keys, and the pattern of major keys is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And usually sometimes string players, it's really easy for them to do this pattern because of how their fingers are placed. So sometimes you don't even need to know like all of the notes. You can just play with the pattern. Okay, so here is the circle of fifths, and it has the major keys only. And I'll tell you why it's called the circle of fifths like later, because you might have also heard it as the circle of fourths. So here you see 1 flat, 2 flats, 3 flats, 4 flats, 5 flats. And if you see this, you can notice that they are inharmonic equivalents. So technically, if you play the scale for this, the notes will be equivalent to what you would play when you have a key signature like this for the major scale. And then in order to identify a key from its key signature, for major keys only though, if it is a key with sharps, you take the last sharp in the key. So in this case, that's why it's important to remember the order of the flats and the sharps. So in this case, you have F, C, G, D. So the last one in order would be D sharp. And then you raise it a half step, which would be E. So 4 sharps here in the major key would be E major. And here, if you have flats, you take the second to last flat. So if you know the order is B, A, D, G, C, F, and here you have B, E, A. So the second to last flat would be E flat. So it would be E flat major. But an exception to that would be F major, which it only has 1 flat, and that's B flat. And you can't really use it for that. So I guess you just remember it. And then also the no sharps, no flat is C major. Okay, so scale degrees. So here we have a C major scale. And the first note is called the tonic. The second one is called the supertonic. The third scale degree is called the mediant. The fourth scale degree is called the subdominant. The fifth scale degree is called the dominant. And the sixth scale degree is called the submediant. The seventh scale degree is called the leading tone, and then it goes back to the tonic. And the leading tone is especially important because it's a feeling of tension. So like before you get to the tonic, there's just a small feeling of tension. I can give an example. So before you get to the tonic, there's just this feeling of tension. So if a piece just ended here, you wouldn't really feel it's about to end, but this tension point just allows it to resolve nicely. So when you like analyze music, you'll find the leading tone as the ending for a lot of pieces. And then if we reorganize it in this way, you can see more clearly why they're called the way they are. The tonic and then the supertonic is after the tonic. It's higher than the tonic. The mediant, the dominant, the subdominant is the kind of like the note before the tonic. It's kind of in the same position. The submediant is also in the same position before the tonic. So just a review, the first scale degree is the tonic, the second scale degree is the supertonic, the third scale degree is the mediant, the fourth scale degree is the subdominant, the fifth scale degree is the dominant, the sixth scale degree is the submediant, the seventh scale degree is the leading tone. And then the eighth scale degree is octave equivalence to the first scale degree. So it's still the tonic. Okay, so just a small practice. If you have any questions, you guys can ask me. So I'll give you guys like 2 or 3 minutes to do this one. Okay, so if you guys are finished with that, these are the answers. So the fourth scale degree, if you look at F major, it has 1 flat, which is B flat, and the fourth scale degree would be F, G, A, B, so B flat. And the fourth scale degree is also called the subdominant. So here we have G major. In G major, if you use the pattern if you use like the identifying tool that I gave you before, it has 1 sharp, which is F sharp. And the leading tone is the 7th scale degree. So it's F sharp. And A flat major has 4 flats, B, E, A, D. So it's the second to last. The name is the second to last flat. So it'd be A flat, so it would be B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. The 5th scale degree, also known as the dominant, would be A, B, C, D, E, E flat. E major has 4 sharps, and you would know that by taking E and going down by 1/2 step, which would give you D sharp, and the order is F, C, G, D. So you would know it's 4 sharps. The median is the 3rd scale degree, so E, F, G, so it would be G sharp. B major has 5 sharps. And the supertonic is the 2nd scale degree. Oh, I believe the supertonic. I think it's supposed to say C sharp. I don't know. I think it's a typo, sorry. So it's C sharp because it has 5 sharps. If you take B and go down by 1/2 step, it would be A sharp. So in the order, there would be 5 sharps. So the 2nd scale degree is C sharp. And D flat major has 5 flats because D flat is the second to last flat, so B, A, D, G. And the 6th scale degree also known as the submediant. So D, E, F, G. So it'd be B flat. Okay. So going on to minor keys, the pattern is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. And this is the completed circle of this. Sorry. This is the completed circle of this. So if you notice, the C and the C are, the C and the C minor, well, they're a fourth apart, but sometimes it's a fifth apart, sometimes they're a fourth apart, so C and the C minor. So that's why it would be called the circle of fifths or the circle of fourths. Okay, so relative keys share their key signature. So relative keys are between minor and major keys. Keys that share their key signature, for example, C and C major and A minor. Those would be relative keys. And parallel keys share their tonic. So it would be, they share their name, their letter name. So C here and C minor here, C major, C minor, they would be parallel keys. And then more oftenly used, natural minor is not really oftenly used in music. More oftenly used is harmonic minor and melodic minor. And harmonic minor, what it is it raises the seventh scale degree by a half of a step to create the leading tone. So as I said before, that point of tension to the resolving. And then melodic minor raises both the sixth and the seventh scale degree on the way up. And I don't know what happened here. And it drops them back down on the way down. So it would be raising both sixth and seventh scale degree on the way up and back to natural on the way down. So to find a minor key, you can find a relative major key by counting down 3 half steps. So just to find a key signature. So for example, you have C major. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. You have C major, you would count 3 half steps. So it would be C, B, B flat, A, and you would have A minor, and that would be the relative. And since you already know the key signature of C major, which is no sharps, no flats, you would know that the key signature of A minor is no sharps, no flats as well. So to identify whether a piece of music is written in major or minor, because you might want to, when you're analyzing a piece of music, you want to know what key it actually is written in. And sometimes you can determine just by listening, but also when you have the music, the sheet music, you look at the first note and the last note to see if there are any, and see if there are any accidentals. So if the beginning and the end note are like the tonic, they're usually the tonic. So then you would, if it's like C, for example, and there's no sharps, no flats, then you would know it's probably C major. But if there's like a G sharp within the piece of music, then you would know it's A minor because they purposely put in this leading tone into the piece. So because sometimes you can't really determine from the beginning and end note. Okay. So here's another practice for determining the relative keys. I think just another 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, I think so. Here are the answers. And the key that's a relative major to A minor is C major. And if you count up 3 half steps from A minor, it would be B flat, B, C. So it's C major. G sharp minor, using the same idea, it would be from G sharp to A, B flat, B, so it'd be B major. The relative major for C minor would be E flat major. The relative minor for D minor, the relative major for D minor would be F major. The relative major for C sharp minor would be E major. The relative major for F minor would be A flat major. The relative major for E minor would be G major. And the relative key for B flat minor would be D flat minor. So going on to another small key analysis of the piece Simple Gifts. It's a pretty popular piece. And so just take some time to possibly guess what this is, or we can do the key analysis together. Let's do the key analysis together. So the key of this piece is A flat major, and how you would tell is, first of all, take a look at the key signature, and there are 4 flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So right there, we can limit it to A flat major, which is the second to last flat. So you know that it's either A flat major or its relative key, because only its other relative minor key would have the same key signature. So you would go down by 3 half steps. So A flat, G, F sharp, and an F. So F minor. So you would choose between these 2. And then you look at the first note and the last note. So technically the first note is E flat, which is the dominant, but the first downbeat is A flat because this is an anacrusis, right? And the last note is also A flat. So you can pretty much from there think that it's A flat major, but then let's see if there are any accidentals. So in this piece, there are no accidentals, which means if it was F minor, there would probably be a E natural. And in this case, there is no E natural. So you can tell that it's most likely A flat major. Okay. So going on to the next topic, there's actually scale notes, and what they are is that they're from C to C, just the pattern of no sharps, no flats, from C to C, from D to D, from E to E, from F to F, from G to G, from A to A, and from B to B. So what you were looking at was the major and minor scales. So major would be C to C, no sharps, no flats. It's that pattern, which is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And here you see A to A, no sharps, no flats, is Aeolian mode, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So it's just the pattern of notes from these. You can find a pattern, and you can actually transfer them to different keys, but the different like flats or sharps that will be present would be different. So they're determined whether they're considered either major or minor in like how they sound. So the modes that are considered major would be Ionian mode, which is the actual major mode, Lydian mode, which is F to F, the pattern of F to F with no sharps, no flats, and the pattern is whole, 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 half, whole, whole, half. Mixolydian mode, which is from G to G, no sharps, no flats, and the pattern for that is whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. And modes that are considered minor, other than the original Aeolian mode, which is A to A, no sharps, no flats, which is the original minor, natural minor. There's also Dorian mode, which is from D to D, no sharps, no flats, and the pattern for that is whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. Phrygian mode, which is from E to E, no sharps, no flats, which its pattern is half, whole, 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 half, whole, whole. And then Locrian mode, which is from B to B, no sharps, no flats. And that would be half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Okay. So next, just a small introduction to the style periods. You see that there's medieval, Renaissance, Baroque, classical, romantic, early 20th century, late 20th century, and 21st century. So when you're first learning your instruments, you'll probably find like more classical pieces, Baroque, romantic pieces. So in this area, so a lot of composers that you'll famously recognize, like for example, Bach and Mozart and Beethoven and Schubert, are probably in this section. So they're given different names because of a different style, a certain style within each time period, like strict species or chorales or SATB style. So just a small introduction and showing you some of the different composers. Okay, so do any of you have any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, just a small introduction to a good, in my mind, a good resource to practice these concepts, like possibly key signature identification, right? So this would be F sharp. And you can also, this would be F. And you can also like set, you can reset, 1 second. You can set like the clefs you want to use, like bass clef, alto clef, tenor clef, band staff. You can also set the scales that you want to use, skill modes, and just the note names and challenge mode, the time limit, question limit. So I think this would be a good resource for you guys to practice anything. There's also oral skills as well. So yeah.